So one of the things on this Cadillac that I want to fix is called the exhaust crossover. And it'll be kind of hard to see in here, but on this intake manifold, you have the front half which feeds the front half of the engine and the back half which feeds the back half of the engine. And in the middle, you have the exhaust crossover. Basically, exhaust gas goes from one side of the engine to the other underneath the carburetor. Now, this was factory intended because it helped warm up the carburetor on cooler climates, but I live in Texas. That's never going to be an issue. And right now, it's about 75 degrees today, which is a really nice temperature to drive, but once it hits 90 and you try to restart this sucker, it's just not, it's not fun. So I'm going to see what I can do to kind of get rid of that. So we put the temp gun on it. You can see, you know, that's about 400 degrees underneath the carb, which then makes the carburetor, I would say, 300, and then up by the base of the carb, it's around 150. So I believe gas boils at, I think, 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's what we don't want. So the big thing is I will go somewhere, park for 10 minutes or so, and the engine will just heat up and it'll start boiling the gas in my carburetor. It's really hard to start this car once it's hot and it's 90 plus degrees outside. So right now it wouldn't really do it because it's not that hot, but I mean, you can see it's cooling down pretty quick right now, but it doesn't do that when it's hot outside. Heat is what kills carburetors and makes your gas boil, etc., etc. And that's what we're going to try to do today, is try to get rid of that heat going through the manifold. It even boiled my engine paint off. You can tell just how hot it really is. So this is the engine torn down as far as I'm going to tear it down. And the reason why is because I'm investigating this lifter right here. So when looking at the rocker arms, they look good. The push rods, they look good. So I'm thinking it's a lifter issue, and I'll show you why. So you see on this cylinder here, we have a lifter that's up and a lifter that's pretty much at rest. Over here we have an identical one. So I can, if I push on this push rod, it's still pumped up and it doesn't move. I push on this one, you see I can move that? I mean, it just moves, sinks in there just a little bit. So I tested all the lifters that aren't on top of a lobe. So this one, this one, this one, and this one, and none of them move. Obviously the ones that are on the top of the lobe aren't going to move. But with that being said, there's something wrong with that lifter because it squishes up and down when the other ones don't. Kind of a pain in the butt, but you know, I had to take the intake off anyway to fix, you know, the exhaust crossover passages. So just one more thing. I'm hoping I can just either clean the lifter out or, you know, put in a new one. I don't know. So with the rocker arm shaft removed, basically just 4 head bolts, I can stick my finger down in here and I can move this lifter around with my finger. So that's good. That means it's not, you know, seized in there. It's spinning like it's supposed to, so hopefully it's not too worn out. I just think I need to get it out and inspect it, take a look at it. Oh, come on. Alright, looking at the bottom, it looks good. Got all kinds of oil in it. I don't understand why it was sticking. So I had the lifter apart, and first look at the the wear on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it's pretty much perfect. It's not egg-shaped or anything like that. The lifter was still spinning. When I took it apart, there was oil in it, but I didn't find any major pieces of trash, but that was in there. So the plan is going to be, I don't think I need to buy a new lifter. I'm going to soak this one, get it super duper clean, and then put it back in the car, put oil in it. I'm probably going to have to change the oil, and then run it and see how it goes. It should go just fine. But we're gonna let it soak for the weekend. There's a little Pintle valve inside of here that I think's supposed to rattle around, but this one's not. It's kind of stuck. Feels kind of stuck. I can move it with the flat blade screwdriver, but maybe it's not supposed to rattle. I don't know. But while it's apart, let's soak it and put it back together. After letting the lifter soak for a couple of days, I cleaned it out, I reassembled it, and then I reinstalled it, and also reinstalled this rocker shaft. So those torque to about 60-65 foot-pounds, and you just push them down really, really slow, one at a time, and yeah, it works really well. What I did is I wanted to test that lifter before I put everything all back together, because it would be dumb to put everything all back together and then all of a sudden have the lifter make the same noise. So what I did was I connected the fuel pump outlet to a bottle, and then the two oil lines that go to the filter, I just connected them together, and then I spun the engine over with the starter until it built up oil pressure. I could tell because the light on the dash went out. And as you guys saw earlier in the video, I can't push this down like I could before, and that lifter isn't raised at all, so that means oil inside the lifter is holding that push rod up. So it shouldn't, in theory, make that ticking noise that it used to make again. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and start putting the engine back together. I have new valve cover gaskets, cleaned up my valve covers. You can see them right here. That's one thing I've been meaning to do for a long time. They just weeped a little bit. These heads are different than like a small block Chevy. They do have a little shelf for oil to sit in, some return holes, but it's the valve cover gasket that really keeps the oil in. If you didn't have it, it'd just be a mess everywhere. So today what I want to do is I want to put the inspection cover back on, the valve covers back on, and then work on the intake, see if I can't get that a little bit better than it was. So here's the intake off of my Cadillac. At one point it was nice and blue and pretty, the whole thing. Basically the way this intake works is you have intake runners on all four corners, and in the middle is an exhaust crossover. Basically, exhaust from one head will puff into this crossover right here, and they'll just take turns going back and forth, and it comes up through these holes. And if you look at this gasket, this is the original gasket for the original carburetor. You can see that there's a little passage underneath the carb for the exhaust gas to go through. I mean, that's 400-degree exhaust gas chilling underneath your carburetor and making it really hot. So what I think is happening is when I park it and I sit for a little bit, the carburetor gets so hot because of this passover that it has a hard time starting. So what I'm going to do is I got a drill bit. You can see I've already started. I'm going to kind of drill out these holes. I'm going to tap them with threads, and then I have these little plugs that are going to go down in them. So this one's pretty much straight up and down. I think I can get this one to work. This one's kind of at an angle like this. I might have to grind off part of it. See how deep I can get it. I mean, I can get them pretty deep. The holes are pretty deep. So I'm hoping this helps a lot. And then I also have a new reducer plate for the intake. So you can see, you have small hole, and then you have larger holes. So the old school square bore carbs have a small, I guess, butterfly pattern. Anyway, the way this works is it'll bolt on like this, so I can use my newer style Edelbrock and be good to go. And I'm hoping this metal plate, I mean, I don't think it will contribute to vapor lock, but at least it lifts the carburetor just that much higher off of the intake. Now I wish I could find this in a, I think they're called phenol plastic. It's like an ABS plastic that reduces carb heat a lot. I don't think they make these in that, but maybe they do. If you guys find one for me, let me know and I'll put it on. But that's the plan for the intake. Here's my ghetto tap setup. My tool to put these in is too small for this tap that I bought. So that's what I got to do. But you know, it's working out very well. Let's see, I had I think it was a 29/64 drill bit, or a, here you go. That's the drill bit that I bought, and then it's specifically for metal, and it worked really well. And then the tap that I bought is for these little nubs that I already had. They're made to plug intake, so perfect. And this is a half, I believe it's a half 18 tap. So fingers crossed they work really well. I put oil on the tap before I put it in, and I don't know if I need to coat these with anything, but they should just screw right in. So we'll see how this goes.